Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canadips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canadips CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadipsCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadipsCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports.
We got to talk about Erik Ten Hag, man. So, 2 days in, not 2 days, 2 matches in the Erik Ten Hag era in Bayer Leverkusen, and Leverkusen's like, we've seen enough. Get this man out of here. So Bayer Leverkusen has sacked Erik Ten Hag after 2 matches, and this is also kind of like an interesting stretch of days because Fenerbahce sacked Jose Mourinho, and Benfica sacked Ole Gunnar as well. So I know it's Ole Gunnar, okay? These guys, just calm down. I just like saying Ole Gunnar. But yeah, and then, so 3 former United managers have all been sacked by their current clubs. I think the Fenerbahce and the Benfica one, I think they've already they at least had a season, roughly a season, under those belts. But like Leverkusen, literally we went 2 games, and I mean, it is a rough start. I'm not gonna say that it's not. I think it's a little too early to be going to like, hey, let's get rid of this guy. But we'll get into it. But yeah, it's only been 2 matches. They've only played 2 matches into the season. Obviously, maybe also it doesn't help in the friendly. I believe they played against some Brazilian academy and lost to that Brazilian academy. But yeah, obviously it's not a good look. But so I will say though, the match that I guess would essentially be kind of the nail in the coffin for Erik Ten Hag was a 3-3 draw to Werder Bremen. I watched this game. I actually mentioned it a little bit in last week's episode where Bayer Leverkusen was winning the game. They were up 3-1. Werder Bremen had a red card, so they were down 1 man, and they drew. They came back and scored 2 unanswered goals to get a point, secure a point, which in many look, people try to say that, you know, that there's no real winner or loser when it comes to draws. No, there is in fact there is draws that you can tell who got the positive result over the other, and it's normally the team that can somehow shit out 2 unanswered goals over the team that had a 3-1 lead. So yes, as a matter of fact, there was a winner and loser in that draw, and that loser was Bayer Leverkusen. Especially when Werder Bremen were down to 10 men when this all happened. They were already down to 10 men. It wasn't like, oh, they were in full strength still at the time. No, they were down 10 men. So, yes, it was a horrific performance. I watched that game mainly because it was going to be Malik Tillman's debut. And Malik Tillman did get his first goal for Leverkusen. But, yes, it was very much a bad showing. Once again, Leverkusen also received a loss in their first match of the season, and then to answer back with a draw that very much is a loss. You lost 2 points. You missed out on getting 3 points. You had 3 points in your hands, and immediately just pissed that all away. So I see. Like, for me though, is it too early to be doing this? I do feel that way. Now, if this was like later on in the year, completely unacceptable, and clearly you should fire him. But the reason why the issue is that we're only 2 matches into the season. But the other thing is also the fact that this is not like the same Bayer Leverkusen team from last year. Very much not, because obviously, you know, one, you lost your manager in Xabi Alonso. He's now with Real Madrid. And then on top of that, you lose a lot of key players from last year. Florian Wirtz is over at Liverpool. Frimpong is at Liverpool. Jonathan Tah is at Bayern Munich. I'm trying to think of all the players. I mean Boniface. I mean he's also gone. Um, yeah. So this isn't the same Bayer Leverkusen team from last year. This isn't the same Leverkusen team that went undefeated the year before. This is very much you lost a lot of key players. It'd be one thing if it was just one or two guys, but you lost some very crucial pieces to your team. I believe from that, at least players of note from that team, Grimaldo obviously is still with them, but. And now you have Lucas Vasquez, which I don't believe is playing yet. I think we might see him. We might see him later on. But yeah, I mean, it's you. And I also don't really feel like they did much in the transfer window, at least significant enough to be like Leverkusen. Like I expect a dip in Leverkusen, and it's not mainly because of Aaron Ten Hag. You just lost a lot of good players. It really does come down to that. There's not many teams that can recover when you lose that many key players, and I want to emphasize key players to your team. I mean that it's just logic tells you that it's going to take a while to find players and to fill in the new holes that this team's going to have. And so I don't want to put too much blame on Erik Ten Hag in that department. But in reality, so I think that the sacking is way too early. But this could also just be there has to be something deeper. There has to be something so much deeper to the issues with Erik Ten Hag, and we found that out. Apparently, he was just not well liked amongst the coaching staff, which I think is a lot. Some people are saying that he hired the coaching staff. From what I've gathered, or at least from my personal experience, the coaching staff doesn't really change. So, for instance, in American football, when a new head coach is hired onto a team, that most of the guys from the coaching staff that got fired, they're not coming back to the team because obviously that's not the coaching staff that head coach has. So that head coach usually hires his own staff for the team. You know, his assistant coaches, his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. All those things are things that he hires on once he gets the job. He may keep some guys from the previous regime. Essentially, he has the guys interview for the jobs. When I worked at the Houston Dynamo, most of the guys on the coaching staff were very much still guys from previous years, and only thing that was different was just the new manager, which is Ben Olsen. Yeah, because you still like the assistant coaches. Even training staff and all those guys, we're all still the same people. I mean, people will come and go. I mean, like people get new job opportunities and want to test out new waters, want to become the manager of their own club. Like, I mean, that's very common. But more often than not, these guys pretty much stay the same. So, but people I guess there wasn't really much gelling with the coaches. And I think it also comes down to that. Bayer Leverkusen Erik Ten Hag was just not on top of their list. I honestly think it just came down to that. Like, I don't think that they were very much wanting to bring him in. I think that there were other guys that they were pushing for. Cesc Fabregas is like a name that I think was very heavily someone they were attempting to pursue. He clearly stayed put at Como. I also believe that Inter Milan was also trying to bring him on. So I think a ton of other things happened where they just could not get the manager that they ideally wanted to bring into the team. Xavi Hernandez was a guy that I believe they did reach out for. He rejected the job. From apparently multiple times, he rejected the Leverkusen job. Which I believe the reason why is just he wants to take a break from football. Take that for what you want. But so you settled for Erik Ten Hag, which I think is, I don't know how you can just I mean, it's not you. I think this is weird. Like, if this was not the guy you wanted, why would you? why would you make an offer? If you, from the interviews, if you just didn't feel like he meshed in with Bayer Leverkusen, then why would you hire him? If you're, especially now that you're coming out with, we never wanted to bring him in, but you brought him in. You paid him, right? Like, I mean, this guy was making good money to come to Leverkusen. To act like he wasn't a good fit would mean that you guys you clearly just didn't do a good job in your search process. You didn't do a good job in the interview process, because if he was telling you all the things that you didn't want to hear, then why would you say, yeah, let's give him the job? You probably missed out on all the guys you initially wanted, and you got this guy. And instead of just seeing what he can do, and you probably should give him some leeway, because once again, you lost a lot of key players. You know, like this, it would be one thing if it was just Xabi Alonso left and the team stayed the same. Like if you still had Frimpong, if you still had Florian Wirtz, if you still had certain players, like if those, key players, if Todd didn't leave, if Boniface still stayed with like the team is exactly the same from last year, and Eric Ten Hag comes in and they shoot the crapper, then yes, then clearly it's him. But when you have that fact, and this is a reason why I had Bayer Leverkusen as my team to watch this season, was because how do they respond from losing not only their manager, but losing a lot of key players? Like I didn't anticipate them to compete for the Bundesliga. I think that, I don't know if the window's closed. Probably. I mean, now definitely you feel like the window's very much closed, but you still needed time for it to for things to really gel in. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to Eric Ten Hag. I think Leverkusen is just trying to save face at this point. For you to say, oh yeah, he wasn't who we really wanted, to me is a crock of shit. Like, you hired the guy, you paid him the amount of money that you paid him, and then the season's not looking great. It didn't help that that friendly that you guys had with, I forgot what academy it was. Maybe it was Flamengo's academy. I don't remember. It was a Brazilian. I know it's a Brazilian league academy. You lose to an academy team, and things weren't looking great. So for some reason, you felt the need to tighten the leash. You tighten the leash. You get a loss and a draw. A draw that very much is a loss. And I get the frustration. I'm not saying that I'm not blind to that. It's clear that, it was not acceptable to have this kind of a start. But at the same time, what did you expect? Like I said, I don't feel like Bayer Leverkusen necessarily did enough to really make you feel like this team is still going to be afloat. Like, yes, I like the Malik Tillman signing, but that's because I'm a U.S. national team supporter. And I think it's cool that he gets a shot to be the 10 for a Bundesliga side. Especially a Bundesliga side that does have a good has a really good track record of guys, taking the next step in their careers once leaving the club. But obviously, with what Xabi Alonso has done for Bayer Leverkusen in his stint with the club, he made them a competitive team. He made a good chance of being a team that can compete in the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. Obviously, we got that answer from last year. They still were a very good team, but very much Bayern Munich is still a very good team as well. And on top of that, once again, I have to reiterate this. They went undefeated. They went undefeated to win the Bundesliga. They needed a team, in order for a team to dethrone Bayern Munich, they had to go undefeated. And everyone's going to be like, oh, but Bayern Munich had a down year. Bayern Munich scored more points, had more points on the table than the year before, which they also won the Bundesliga. That year that Leverkusen won the Bundesliga, yes, they went undefeated. It took a team to go undefeated for Bayern Munich to not win the Bundesliga. And I'm not even a Bayern Munich fan. I don't care about Bayern Munich. But I just want to point that out because they also had more points than they did the year before, which they also won the Bundesliga that year. So, I still want to give credit where credit is due because, once again, undefeated season nonetheless is still something to note. But, to sit here and say, the the reign of terror of Bayern Munich is over. Like, that was just a farce. But yes, Leverkusen was looking very much good as a team that will be competing with Bayern Munich, especially from last year. But once again, the issue with clubs like Bayer Leverkusen and most teams that you would view kind of like mid-table sides, unfortunately, I don't want to call them mid-table side, but they're kind of playing like one now, or teams that normally compete for some sort of European competition, probably not Champions League, but at least some sort of UEFA competition. I mean, their best players get poached. That's what happened with Florian Wirtz. That's what happened with Frimpong. That's what happened with Ta. This is just what happens to them. Not long ago they had Heung-min Son. Not long ago they had Kai Havertz. This is just what happens to clubs like these. Like, their best players get plucked out. And that is the club's responsibility, is to then replenish, find players that can fill in those roles. Because once again, Bayer Leverkusen does a really good job of finding good players and brings them up and then once again sells them for profit. But, I just don't think they did enough this time around to be making you feel like, hey, this team is going to compete for the Bundesliga. And obviously, it's still early. Like, things can change and Bayer Leverkusen can figure things out. But once again, I just think it's unfair to evaluate Erik Ten Hag under these conditions. So, like, am I sitting here and tell you that Erik Ten Hag is a great manager? Honestly, at this point, I don't even know. Obviously, his time at Manchester United was rough, but I mean, I don't even know if you really could blame it on Erik Ten Hag. I really don't. Clearly he lost whatever he had. He lost whatever he had standing left with that club, and he really has no horse to ride on as far as defending himself. But I felt like this was going to be a good opportunity for him to get a bounce back, especially if they're able to find players that can help the squad compete. And that's the only thing that I think that they didn't do much of, was finding players to compete this season. But sometimes maybe it takes the right manager to figure it out. Maybe they don't feel that his tactics worked. Maybe that's what it is. But once again, that just shows how shitty of a job Bayer Leverkusen did at the hiring process. Because if you guys didn't feel he was a good fit, you don't have to hire a manager, right? Yes, you do. You have to hire a manager. But if he's not a good fit, pursue the guys that you believe is a good fit. And so that's where we're here now. So obviously at this point, Ten Hag's gone. It'd be funny if he comes back. That would be hilarious. But Ten Hag's gone. So the options that Leverkusen are now looking at is Edin Terzic, who obviously previously was managing Borussia Dortmund. Another former Borussia Dortmund manager, Marco Rose, who also managed Borussia Mönchengladbach. And a little bit of a different, but going after Raul. And I think that this is interesting because you can make the argument that this is kind of similar to the whole Xabi Alonso thing, because Raul was managing Castilla, Real Madrid's, their youth side, their second division team. He was managing them. He actually stepped away from the position in pursuit, I'm assuming, of a top club, to manage a top club. And so kind of similar to with Xabi Alonso, who worked amongst the ranks of the youth for Real Madrid and gets an opportunity with Bayer Leverkusen, and it worked beautifully. I think Raul kind of maybe a little bit of a similar situation. Maybe they feel that the lightning can strike twice for them. And once again, Raul is a legend, an icon for Real Madrid. The captain of Real Madrid at one point. And and also, when he unfortunately did get pushed to the wayside by Real Madrid, he played for Schalke, so he has some familiarity with the Bundesliga. So I think it is going to be very interesting who they end up hiring, because I don't know, like the availability of Terzic and Rose, I'm assuming they're available because why would they show interest in them? But secondly, Raul is very much available. And if they do feel that, like, hey, it worked with Xabi Alonso, it can work again with Raul. And maybe they want, like, that Spanish style of play. Maybe that's what they're hoping for. Maybe they're hoping that Raul can bring that to this team, because obviously it worked once before with Xabi Alonso. So I think that, and I think if you talk about Terzic and Rose, once again, you're talking about guys that have plenty of Bundesliga experience and know what it takes to keep a team competitive. I don't want to say that know how to win, because obviously, but Terzic did take Borussia Dortmund to the Champions League final, so there is also that. I don't remember too much about Marco Rose's time at Borussia Dortmund, but I would assume wasn't too great. I'm trying to remember, because I think he took over after Tuchel, right? I think so. He took over after Tuchel. No, it was Terzic. So I think Terzic was let go. They bring in Marco Rose, and then they brought back Terzic. I don't know. But we'll see what happens with them. We'll see how everything pans out for Leverkusen. Hopefully they don't regret their decision. I mean, look, I'm not here trying to be like a defender for Erik Ten Hag. I'm not trying to say that he's a great coach. But I mean, we'll see what happens with him. What other opportunity is going to come for him? We'll see. Maybe go back to the Eredivisie. Maybe go to Portugal. Go somewhere where you can get a grasp of it and try to find your bounce back, man. Like I really have no idea where you go from here. But we'll see what happens, man. All right, guys. Quick update to the Bayer Leverkusen situation. They have in fact hired their new manager, and it is Casper Hjulmand. He is a Danish manager. His last stint was managing Denmark. That was from 2020 to 2024. So, kind of say he's been out of the game for a little bit over a year. So, but he does have, as far as his managing background, it goes from managing Nordsjælland, Right to Dream, a lot of Nordsjælland, and then also Mainz. He was a manager with them way back ago, but it's an interesting addition to the team. He does prefer the 3-4-1-2 formation. So we'll see how he does here with Bayer Leverkusen. But yes, so they did hire a guy, and it's going to be Casper Hjulmand taking over at Bayer Leverkusen. So hopefully he gets time. Hopefully he gets his time to actually implement what he wants to do with this team. And once again, the challenge is still very much there.
Who is that guy?